Hi, this is the horror show. This week, we're finally ending Nosferatu with, you guessed it, Nosferatu. Came out in 2024, although every time I think about this movie, I always think it came out in 2025, but that's because it came out in December of 24. It's about, it's a little over 2 hours. It's, rated R. It's directed by Robert Eggers, composed by Robin Carolan. Bill Skarsgard plays Nosferatu. Lily Rose Depp plays Ellen. Nicolas Hoult plays Thomas. William Defoe plays Professor Albin Eberhard von Franz. And Aaron Taylor Johnson plays Friedrich Harding. There's a few others, but those are the main ones. Robert Eggers' Nosferatu is a gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and the terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake. I really like this movie, and out of the Nosferatus, this is the best one, in my opinion. But there are some things about it that are, it's kind of interesting to think about or to talk about, whether it's some of the extended aspect of the story, because it's the same story as the original Nosferatu, but it's a bit different and a little twisted because of it's Robert Eggers directing it, so he's gonna add some stuff and change it a little bit to fit how he likes to go about certain things, which I like but also didn't really like, but it's fine how it is. I get why he did it, or at least, I can see, some of the small little details throughout it. IMDb has this movie as a 7.2 out of 10, I think I wrote down. Around 200k people, about 206,000 people voted in it. So let's get into what I think. The story's a 4.5 out of 10. It's just kind of better than the original. Only really because I really like the idea that the connection that's between Ellen and Nosferatu is really faded, and they kind of go more in depth with it, but it kind of gives off the early 2000s Phantom of the Opera, the relationship between the Phantom and whatever her name was in that movie, I don't remember. But it's just not groomed, but kind of prepared. It's just her childhood and then her just life, in a sense, kind of prepared her to, everything that ever happened in her life has led to this moment, kind of thing. And I used to think that it was Nosferatu waited centuries upon centuries for Ellen, but watching it this time, it's more I'm kind of just thinking of it Ellen kind of psychically, not really psychically, but had visions or whatnot of the future, and Nosferatu, the very first time he ever sees her is when he sees the locket that Thomas has when Thomas arrives at the castle. But sometimes it kind of just feels like whenever Nosferatu's talking to Ellen, and he's with hatred, and stuff like that. It just seems like he's just saying big words together, kind of thing. But anyway, I mean, it's totally possible that it's how I used to think it was. That being that he's been waiting for her for all this time. Totally possible. But I kind of like thinking of it as the way I just kind of started thinking about it. Anyway, I like some of the elements that they kind of changed about in this, in the sense of well, if you're gonna do it, then kind of make it good. And I think they made it good. And when I say when they do it, I'm talking about the extra stuff that's put in it, and not to be give it purpose, give it meaning. Don't just show don't show nudity unless there's a reason for it. Because if it's just in there just to be in there, then like the only reason why you're putting it into the movie to begin with is just to sell tickets. But like whenever Robert Eggers does something like that, for the most part, there's always like a reason behind it. Like it's not just to do it just to do it. There's more to it. And especially two scenes near the end, the specific scene before the ending and then the ending itself is kind of like, ugh, but like there's a reason. And then the very last shot of the movie is like a really artsy shot. So it's like, I get it. The characters are a 4 out of 5 for me. There's some stuff I liked, some stuff I didn't, but it's kind of similar to the story in the sense of you already have these characters that are established, and so you want to, with this movie is basically 100, like this movie came out 102 years after the original. So you would like to think that there's, like, if they retold the story, that there would be more to it than just the original story, in which they do. And the characters feel a little more expanded upon. And it doesn't feel like it's forced or whatnot, so I like that. The music's a 4 out of 5. The music's not something that I would listen to. Well, maybe there's like 1 or 2 pieces of music in this movie that I would be like, hey, I might listen to that because I might get an idea from it. But the rest of it is just really good for this movie. Like, it's really fitting for the movie. So it's like I really like the soundtrack for the most part, just because, watching this movie, it makes me feel like, hey, it's, I'm there. The setting's a 4.5 out of 5. I think I had it. Yeah, it's like a 4 in the first remake and then a 4 in the original. It's only slightly better because, as I kind of said with the story and the characters, it's been 100 years since the original. Expand. And if you can't expand, then there might be a problem. And this movie expands, and I really like a lot of the shots that you see, which you're about to get to, the atmosphere and effects. I really like all the shots, and I really like it just, as I said, it feels more expanded, so it feels bigger than it was before. And then the effects and atmosphere is a 5 out of 5, just great, because the effects are really good, and then the atmosphere is also really good. I guess settings and effects are very similar in the sense of, or like atmosphere, setting and atmosphere, in the sense of, like, you see the castle, you see the shots, you see Thomas on the road, kind of in the middle of the road, just looking on, and then it switches, the camera switches, and you see the carriage coming straight for him, and it's just that whole shot, for that example, that scene, it's really nice. It's really cool. I think so, anyway. Now, people would go and say it's really artsy, it's really blah, 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 and that's kind of all it is. To a degree, you could say that, but only if you're only going in thinking, oh, this movie is nothing more than just an artsy project. In which, you could go in there thinking that, but that might be a mistake. But ultimately, I really like everything about this movie. There are some things that I'm like, about, but, there's not really much that I could, all I could really do is cherry pick, in which I might kind of cherry pick here soon, but the cherry picks are not gonna go against the movie, because if it did, then this movie wouldn't be a 4.4 out of 5 for me. This movie would probably be a little lower, and it would be like the story, probably that would go down a bit, but 4.4 out of 5, that's my rating. So it's the best Nosferatu, in my opinion. The original is better than the first remake, but then again, that first remake, I kind of talked about it last week, how, is it really that bad? It's not. And it's like, I didn't even think it was a bad movie. It's just, if you don't know what I think about it, you should go watch it. Unless you've already watched it, then you know what I think about it. So let's go into the user reviews real quick. Very disappointing. Oh, my bad. I just had to skip a bit. 1 out of 10. Very disappointing. An unforgiving insult. A school play. Disturbing. 5 out of 10. Now, there's more, but, I only wrote down a few of the, right? 5 out of 10. Overrated and dull, poor writing. Started out promising, then fell flat. Pointless and boring. 10 out of 10. Unforgetting horror classic. Robert Eggers is an artistic treasure for the ages. Best vampire movie in a long time. Because that's how they sound. Or that's how they can sound. So, I guess the quick sum up. I think the only reason why someone would go into this and not like it is if they feel like it drags a bit, but I don't really think it drags a bit because something kind of almost always happened, and the only thing that drags a bit is kind of in between the big moments, but I think it's fine, and I like it. So it's just the cherry picks, ultimately. I think that, if you're like a, critic who's gonna shut down a restaurant kind of critic, and you're gonna criticize this movie, you start noticing all the cherry picks, and you're like, blah, 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 about it. You start going and being like, oh, the accents were awful, or, the setting was a cliche, or whatever. Just cherry picking. So, my time to cherry pick. But as I said, this is just me and my own biases. I think the only thing that I legitimately don't like about this movie, but it's also kind of a reason why I do like it. It's weird. It's, and it's kind of similar. I don't like it because I don't like it. I don't like it because I don't like it. No, because in the original Nosferatu and in the 79 Nosferatu, there's no, there's the good versus evil, but the good's just a person. It's just the people there, and the evil is this, demonic vampire, right? Where, in my opinion, when you have, a vampire, you want to have, the cross, and you want to have, Christianity, right? Look at this guy. But, seeing Robert Eggers and seeing some of his other stuff, I'm not surprised they didn't add that stuff, but the stuff that he did add into it was, really, there's a line that, William Defoe's character says, and it's just something really small, and I think he says it a couple of times, but it's something along the lines of angels and demons be with us or pray for us. Angels and demons pray for us. And it's as a Christian, it's I don't, dude, you think he himself thinks that he's going against a demon. He thinks that, that the evil that's happening is because of the demon. But he's also demons pray to us. It's a bit, at least in my opinion, a bit contradictory. But, I get, his character's kind of that out there character who, scientist who's starting to kind of look into occultish kind of whatever. So, it makes sense for his character. But it is still kind of weird, And I kind of like the ending because, kind of like how I like a movie like The Wailing, where it's if you don't have that good, if you do win, there's a really heavy cost. And it asks the question, did you really win? So in Nosferatu, they win, the day is saved at the very end, but what's the cost? A lot of people died, and some more people died. And then of course, if you've seen the ending, spoiler alert, if you've never seen any of the Nosferatus, Ellen sacrifices herself. Which, that's not the problem. It's just the the whole good versus evil thing, and then there's not really a clear-cut good in this. It's just the people. It's just people. But the one thing that I really do like about it is there's a scene where when the main characters are starting to understand what they're dealing with, William Defoe, his character, the professor, kind of goes on this rant about how, modern science has blinded us, and that, there's a lot of, things beyond that we don't quite understand, but science will not answer those questions. That, it's a lot of supernatural faith kind of things. And And I think that's, really true, because, science today would like to go and be like, we know for certain that evolution's, real thing. We know for certain X, we know for certain Y, we know for certain Z. And it's like, we know some things. Well, we know a lot of things. But to think that we know everything, or that science can explain away everything, especially, say a vampire came along, science can't explain that. Or maybe it could, but like, you need to capture it first, and then you need to do blood samples and testing, and then maybe you find out something. But like, you can't really, science itself can't save the day there. So I kind of like that whole aspect, but it's just ultimately, it's like the lack of Christianity to be, the hero, and say, it's whatever. But that's just my cherry picking. I'm not going to go and hold that against this movie. I think this movie was still a really well-made movie. And I still think it's a really good movie that people should go and watch. But, it's 2 hours long. It's like 2:12. Basically 12. 12 hours long. Basically 2. There's the extended version that's like an extra 30 minutes or whatever. I don't know if it's going to tell me. I don't think it tells me the time difference between the two. Oh, yep. Oh, okay. My bad. The extended's just 4 minutes longer. Interesting. Just small little things that make a scene slightly better, probably. But yeah, I'm Sam, Flying Kite. This is the horror show, and finished off Nosferatu. Next franchise we'll be doing will be... Let me double check real quick. Next franchise we'll be doing is Final Destination. Kind of switching it up a bit, but that's all fine and dandy, I think, anyway. And then after Final Destination, we're doing a countdown, because the next franchise after that is going to lead to Halloween. So it's going to be real fun, I think. But I'll see y'all next week. Goodbye.